Welcome back to the Add a Zero Challenge, where we take a $10,000 bankroll to $100,000 playing live cash games streamed on Twitch and made into videos here, wherever you're watching this video. We're starting today's episode with $9,250. We are down from where we started. This is the 4th episode, but I'm confident. I believe. Let's get into the action. We're going to look down at Ace-10 offsuit here and raise it up to 20. In middle position, pulls around to the big blind, who calls. This is my first time playing with the big blind. He seems to be some sort of a regular player. Plays the 5-10 game often. As we go to an Ace-10 3-flop, 2 diamonds, $40 in the middle right now. We're gonna bet 30 into 40.
Let's start slowly.
And a call that will put 100 in the middle. Jack on the turn.
75.
We bet 75. We've got to be somewhat concerned about this card in that Ace-Jack beats us now, King-Queen beats us now, which is reasonable to have. So it's a card where we're not going to be super happy if we get raised, but still, we have a value bet. We get raised up to $215. We're not loving our life. We still have a decent hand, but it's going to be a tough spot on the river. For $215, I think we call with 75 already in there.
Call.
So we call, and we're going to go to the river, which is a queen. A terrible card on the river. Our opponent has a possibility of a straight that is bluffing, potentially. Is going to have a lot of better 2 pairs now, and so essentially we're going to lose the spot, I think. Our opponent checks, and we check as well. And they show down a set of 3s. So actually,
Nice hand.
that card probably
3s.
saved us some money.
Nice hand, nice hand.
And we're on to the next hand, but not off to a good start. 1,300 in buy-ins, you can see on the left-hand side. We look down at pocket 10s. We get a raise up under the gun to what looks like 20.
Call.
And we're sitting on pocket 10s and decide to call. You could 3-bet this hand too. I think call is probably more standard against under the gun range. Go to a queen 6-4 flop, all diamonds, and we have the 10 of diamonds in our hand. Our opponent bets just $10 into this pot that has about 47 in it. We're going to call, getting 5 to 1. There's no need to inflate the pot right now with 10s and the 10 of diamonds. We just call, see a turn, and be pretty comfortable on most turns. 7 of spades, and our opponent bets what looks like 25.
Call.
We decide to call. We can actually see them in the whole card cam, so we get a nice view of what's going on here. And the river is the ace of diamonds. We make the 3rd nut flush. When our opponent checks, I think we have a clear value bet here. We're going to bet $100, which is a pretty big bet. Opponent calls. We show the goods and take down the pot. So nice to win a little pot there.
80 minutes. I won my first pot. Thank you, dude.
And first pot of the day. I think that was about 3 hours in. This was a
Appreciate
pretty cold start to the
good.
session. Lucky to only be in for $1,300.
Yeah.
Moving on to the next hand, we look down at King 10 of hearts in early-ish position. We're going to raise it up to $20. The cutoff calls for 20, as does the small blind, and the big blind folds. Okay, so we're going to a flop 3 ways. Flop is Jack 8-6. Opponent checks now. I think this is actually a pretty good board to bet here. King 10 is a hand that we don't really love check calling with. We have 1 overcard. We have a lot of backdoor straight draws on a queen, on a 9, on a 7. Any heart is going to improve our hand, but it's just not quite good enough to check call, right? If we had like an Ace-10 of hearts or something like that, it's a little bit easier. But with King 10, it's a little weak. So I decided to start betting here, knowing that I'm going to have a lot of good turns and good rivers to bet. On an ace, on a king, on a queen, on a 9, on a 7, on a heart, we're going to have a hand where we pick up equity and we can continue to put pressure on a 1-pair hand. So I go for the bet here. I bet 50 into a pot of about 65, and we get a call from seat 4, and we get a call from seat 6. So 3 ways to the turn. We pick up the beautiful 3 of hearts on the turn, picking up the flush draw. I think this is a mandatory continue betting. We bet 175, and we get a call from the small blind after we fold out C4. Double barrel hasn't quite worked yet. We're going to a river. Are we going to make our hand, or are we going to pull the trigger? It's going to have to be a pull the trigger spot if we want to win this pot. Should we bluff with the King 10? Well, the first thing I want to ask is, do we have an opponent that is capable of folding? If our opponent is going to call too much on the river, then I don't really want to bluff them. I think we should just give up and try and make good hands. However, this opponent was playing pretty solid and pretty decently. I'd seen him made a big fold before, so I think it is an opponent that can fold. Great. First barrier of entry, success. The second question is, do we have a hand that wants to bluff here? Our value bets are very obvious, right? We have Jack 8 suited, we have Ace Jack that can probably value bet, although it's thin. We have Queens, Kings, Aces that can value bet. We have 6s, we have 8s, we have Jacks, and then we have a hand like Queen 10 that just made a straight that was probably going to bluff the flop and turn some percentage of the time. So those are our value hands, right? And that makes sense. We need some bluffs to balance out with those value hands in a theoretical sense. So what are our best bluffs? Well, ace high on the flop, let's go all the way back to the flop, is much more likely to start with a check. So we don't have a lot of ace highs in this situation that decided to bet flop, turn, and river. Maybe sometimes we would have a hand like ace king or ace queen, but it probably very rarely plays the spot like this. So let's eliminate that hand. Do we have a hand like king queen? Yes. I think king queen is a hand we can have here. I think it's a hand we can bluff here. Definitely king queen of hearts. Is the other king queens going to continue on the turn when it doesn't pick up the flush draw and it goes three ways? It's optimistic, honestly. So I think we have king queen of hearts. We have king 10 of hearts. Yes, we do. Do we have king 9 of hearts? Yes, but we're not going to bluff because we've rivered a 9. So we have king queen of hearts. We have king 10 of hearts. We might have a hand like 7-5 makes a straight, honestly. 9-7 makes a pair. 9-10 makes a pair. We just don't have that many bluffs, right? When I'm thinking through it with you live right now, what are our bluffs? Well, king queen of hearts, king 10 of hearts. It's really hard to have enough bluffs. So I think we should bluff. That's how I think. Now, I'm pretty sure I did because it made the highlights. I do bet all in. That looks to be about 580, something like that. And our opponent, after a long tank, we cut the tank out there, folds. We take it down with the bluff. It feels good, man. Whew. I think I have the coolest piece of poker software you've ever seen today. It is called Hybrid Poker. Brand new piece of poker learning software where you test your score against myself, against Daniel Negreanu, against Bill Perkins, and see how you score against the three of us, as well as other poker players as well. But Hybrid Poker learns about you, the player, this is really cool. As Hybrid Poker gets to know you, it's going to tell you what to work on. There's a link to the IQ test down below. Try it for free. I think you'll like it. So try it out. So starting this hand, we look down at 5-7 of spades. We have a limp under the gun in singles in $1 chips, a raise to 20, call in the small blind. We decide to call in the big blind with our 5-7, and under the gun calls as well. So we're going to a flop. We have 5-7 of spades here, 4 ways. Can we flop something big? Not really. We flop a pair of fives. It goes check through, and we see the beautiful 5 on the turn. We have trip 5s now. The small blind is betting $60 here into a pot of 80. That's a really scary bet for me. They can have a lot of draws, but it is a sort of 5 bet, right? It's a 5 or a draw kind of bet most of the time. So we decide to just call with our trip 5s. Rivers of 4 diamonds. They check. I think we have the value bet here.
125.
We bet 125. It's a spot where we can probably just fold to a check raise against what's a flush or a full house or a better hand.
5.
But we get check called. We show the trip 5s and we take it down. Easy pog. Just the big blind special with the suited hand. Queen 9 of hearts here.
20.
In middle position. We're raising it up to 20, so like this is an aggressive raise. With the standard open size being 4x, it's like a wide range to be opening. But I think it's a game where it's justified. We get called by C2, and we're going to go to a flop here with our Queen 9 of hearts, and it is Ace King 10 with 2 hearts. The absolute dream. Now, we don't actually have anything right now. We have a flush draw, but when we think about the pre-flop spot from our opponent, they don't 3-bet us, so I'm pretty sure they don't have Ace King, pretty sure they don't have aces, pretty sure they don't have kings, and that already is giving us an advantage in middle position. So I'm suiting up for some big bets and some big bluffs here.
30.
We bet 30 on the flop into about 45. Our opponent is going to call. Turn is an 8.
150.
We decide to bet 150. 150. Here's the big bet. It's saying, hey, I've got the goods more often than you do. Maximum pressure, maximum value with our value hands, but maximum pressure with our bluff that we have here in a spot where we can have a lot of bluffs and we can have a lot of value hands. So 150 into a pot of about 100, it's like 130% bet here. And our opponent calls. That's a little scary. River is a queen. What do we do? What are our bluffs? Once again, do we have an opponent that can fold to bluffs? Yes, I think so. They seem to be sort of playing pretty standard, but I think also can play reasonably. Can our opponent fold to a bluff? I think they can. Okay, great. So what are our best bluffs going to be? Well, we're not going to play a one pair of like ace-5 like this, right? So we can eliminate those small aces. We're not going to play a king like this. We're going to pot control a king much more often on the turn. There's no reason to overbet on the turn with a king, right? It's a middle strength hand. So what possibly could play this way? Well, a 10 could decide to turn itself into a bluff on the turn, like a 10-9 or a 10-jack. 10-jack makes a straight. So 10-9 could be a bluff. What else do we have? Queen X of hearts. Queen-jack makes a straight. Queen 10 of hearts makes 2 pair and isn't going to bluff on this river, probably. Queen 9 is the hand I have. Queen 8 makes 2 pair and isn't going to bluff, and we don't open Queen 7. Okay. Jack 9 of hearts makes a straight, doesn't need to bluff. What are our bluffs? We have to turn our pair of queens into a bluff here. Yes, we improved to a pair of queens, but it is not good enough. We have very few bluffs in the spot in a situation where we have more strong hands than our opponent. We have more strong hands. We have more sets. We have more 2 pairs. And in terms of straights, we're probably pretty equal. I don't think my opponent's going to continue with a king-jack on the turn. So we're looking at probably ace-jack or jack and a flush draw of some kind. And so those are the jacks they're going to have. But yeah, I think we got to suit up and bluff here.
400.
And I bet 400. I go for the big one, trying to get my opponent to fold a king 10, trying to get my opponent to fold an ace 10, trying to get my opponent to fold a lot of stuff here. And they do fold. So important to note here before we move on to the next hand, it's not great to be winning all of your pots by bluffing in live poker. It's generally not a good idea. It's not what you want. It's definitely a run cold kind of session because really you make your money in poker from value bets, and your bluffs are balancing out against your value bets, ensuring that you get action in the future. You don't make a lot of money on bluffs because you don't get paid with the river bet, right? You get a lot less reward. So we're having a cold session, but we're making it work here. 1,300 of buy-ins. It looks like we've got a decent stack in front of us. Looking down at the kings.
35.
We're going to raise up to 35 in a straddle pot. We have the all-in from seat 6, who we've played with a couple times before. He likes to play the short stack.
How many?
Trying to run up a bit of a roll. I think he has like a max buy-in for the day.
I got kings.
So we've got an all-in sweat. Kings against
we could run out a straight,
aces. It is aces.
Kings against aces, chat. Oh my god.
And it doesn't go great. We lose the pot.
Could have been worse,
And we lose a stack. But a short stack, $200. So that's it on the session here for episode 4. Unfortunately, I wish I could deliver you all good news. I can't. We were down 1170 on the session. So after clawing back on episode 3, we lose some chips on episode 4. It was a very uneventful session, even though it was an 11-hour day. Just nothing went our way. So we're going to start the next episode with, I think, about an $8,100 bankroll. It'll be updated on the next overlay. And not the start we wanted in the challenge, but hang in there. Hang in there. I'm in the future right now. Hang in there. Trust me. We're going to be okay. Thank you all so much for watching the channel. I really appreciate it. If you're new around here, make sure you follow, subscribe, or follow wherever you're watching this. And that's it for today. Till next time, I'll see you later. Goodbye.